anyway, now that I really spent a lot of time thinking about the practical applications of being involved in politics, it's to maintain those highs and lows for everybody. And I think it's fantastic. So what am I going to do as a politician? I'm going to do that. I'm going to do America. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to maintain freedoms for people. How does the practical application now, this uncontrolled spending is, we are spending your great-great-grandchildren's money right now, Bert, and it just simply has to stop. Our foreign policy is a train wreck. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have both proven to be inept. And I go out of my way to not personally degrade the president of the United States, because I don't think we should, number one. And two, it's just not biblical to insult your elders. But I feel very comfortable saying that he is inept when it comes to foreign policy. And frankly, I think a lot of the stuff that's going on in the United States right now, that they're maintaining the highs and lows stuff, that speaks directly to making sure that socialism doesn't gain a further root in the nation. That's got to happen. If you look at critical race theory, for instance, have you seen critical race theory?
Yep.
So, okay, look at that thing. What that is really, it's a tweaking of a Marxist principle of identifying somebody that you can say is an internal enemy, an actual enemy, and then you are able to exploit that difference, that wedge that you drive in order to gain power. And a lot of people that are doing that, they don't understand what's going on. Let me give you an analogy, because now they're trying to tie critical race theory into free speech, which is just junk, because they're getting rolled up for doing it in schools. But so there's a group of people that was historically oppressed, not that individual person, but that group of people was historically oppressed. And then there's another group of people who, not that people, but that group of people. And in this case, it's defined by race. So there's one race that's been historically oppressed, and then there's a group that historically oppressed them, right? But again, not those individual human beings. So in order to right this wrong, you're supposed to oppress these people. Okay, that is exactly the same thought process where people used to say, your foot is frostbitten, rub snow on it. It doesn't make any sense at all. So I will do everything in my power, along with Senator Tom Cotton, who just announced his endorsement yesterday, to make sure that you just can't teach that stuff in the military. You can't teach that in the government. You should never be able to teach that in any schools, because it's just wrong.
Absolutely.
It's actually institutionalizing racism.
Well, on that note, considering that you were an operator for, your entire adult life, from being a young guy up until you got out, and then now running for Congress, talk to me about the Second Amendment.
A well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay, I didn't just read that. That's the entire text of the Second Amendment. And you'll notice there's nothing in there about hunting. There's nothing in there about animals. There's actually nothing in there about even protecting yourself. Okay, a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state. That's very clear. People are trying to convolute this into something that it's not. And I do this thing. We talked about the 13th and the 19th Amendment earlier. Let's say all the guys in the world got together and they're like, or all the guys in the world, all the guys in America got together and they said, I don't like the way women are voting. Let's remove the 19th Amendment, right? How many 19th Amendment free zones would there be? There wouldn't be any, because it's absurd, right? So when these people are putting restrictions on the Second Amendment, it's absurd. I don't have these conversations with people. Why should I get into a conversation about women not being able to vote when I think that would be absurd? I was raised by a single mother. Why should I get into a conversation with somebody who thinks it's okay to bring back indentured servitude, one of the most horrific institutions ever? No. You know why? It's ensconced in the Constitution for a very specific reason. as is the Second Amendment. Each one of those amendments is equally valid and has as much weight as another. So when people are talking about this stuff, just, my answer is no. It's inappropriate. They try to do these end arounds with taxation. And that's if you're implementing a tax on ammunition or on weapons or on parts of weapons, in order to make it more difficult for you to purchase weapons and ammunition, you're actually infringing on the Second Amendment, and that's unconstitutional. I will not stand for that, Bert. And you know where that came from, the Second Amendment? Why it's in there? I mean, it's the obvious answer is, the king and queen. This guy named, Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. Sorry, he wrote this book called Reading Law, and he gets into the Second Amendment where he's like, hey, the Tudor kings were Catholic and they wanted to maintain power in England, and in order to do so, they realized they had to make some radical changes. So I do this in a venue with folks. I have them stand up. Everybody stand up. Okay. Anybody who's over 80, sit down, and I adjust it for cultural norms. So I have men and women stand up. Anyone over 80, sit down. Okay. Everybody who's left standing up, you're the militia. Because you were.
Wow.
Right. And the militia, it was a requirement that you kept. It seems like I'm keeping this pen. And then you bear, in this case, be able to write with this pen. So every person standing up around, under the age of 80 was required by law to keep and be able to use arms, which is a weapon. And the king was like, in order for me to maintain power, I have to remove the ability for people to keep and bear arms. So people get caught up in this militia thing. They don't understand that contextually, when that was written, it was you and me, and it was your wife at this point, Bert. So that's why it's so important that we understand, we actually read the Constitution and understand why it was written, and then apply that. I mean, so I dropped out of high school when I was 16. I got an undergraduate degree. I joined the Navy, and I had 6 months to get a GED. Like right now, they wouldn't want anything to do with you, right? This is 1988. Where were you in 1988?
I was 5.
Okay, good. So Ronald Reagan wanted a 600 ship Navy. And so, like, if you wiped the blood off the knife you just stabbed somebody with, they're like, you're fine. You'll grow out of it. So they gave me 6 months to get a GED, and I did. And then I got an undergraduate degree when I was 44. But what that did is, one, it gave me a great appreciation for education. It truly did. And two, it allowed me to just read something and take it for what it says. Like, a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right for people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I read them, like, okay, got it. Like, moving on. So, wow. Well, that's what I feel about the Second Amendment.
Check. It's always interesting to ask an operator who has now gone into any kind of service outside, because I know what the answer is going to be. I mean, clearly we know what it's for in the defense. I mean, they don't give us a weapon in the military other than to defend. So it's the same scenario, because whether we're fighting overseas or somebody's trying to attack us here in this country, we have to be able to protect our families and our loved ones. It's as simple as that. Truly.
Very simple. Hey, one thing, then I'll quit bugging you. I want your people to listen, especially if they're first responders, and tell them my perspective on this. Because people wonder, why is there it's truly a symbiotic relationship between the military and first responders. This is why. I was in the military before as a Christian, but even then I was kind of like, I'm in the military. Then I became a Christian. I really understood the other side. You know what I mean? I got the whole picture. So I never worried about myself physically. Like, I wasn't worried about being killed or injured or any of that stuff. I just wasn't. But what I would worry about all the time is my wife. Because Sarah Jane and I have been married the whole time I was in the teams. And then we had 4 kids throughout our marriage, And so I would always worry about my wife and my children at home. And the reason that I was able to function appropriately when I wasn't at home training and deployed is because I knew that there was cops, and I knew that there was firefighters, and I knew that there's EMS folks there that would take care of my family when I was overseas. So when I see cops and firefighters and EMS folks, because I was a paramedic for a long time too, I profoundly thank them. And the difference is I actually mean it. And the United States military would not be able to function at the high level that we're able to function overseas and even training in CONUS without police, firefighters, and EMS watching out for our families. So if you're in that category, I want to thank you heartily. Keep up the good work.
That is
That's all I
awesome,
have to
brother.
say about that, Bird. Yeah, I don't know if you felt that way, but I did. I think about those guys all the time.
100%.
And
You know,
gals.
yep. I work
Yeah.
with them all the time from our organization's perspective.
Yeah.
And my grandfather was a Detroit fireman after World War II for 30 years, and plenty of friends that are police officers. And, you know, we absolutely support them. Even now, being a civilian, I'm still going to rely on them. It's not just in my hands. We still rely on them. I can't save a life of every type of complication. I certainly can't do the things legally that police officers can do, but I definitely want them on my side, and I want them here. And that'll never change. Well, I'll tell you this right now, everybody listening. So I served with Vano. I served underneath Derrick, and he was a hell of a leader at Team 7. There was a specific instance where he took care of me that I will just let you know he took care of me. And the integrity is at an all-time high. You don't serve an entire career in an elite unit without having integrity and a buy-in from the brotherhood, which he has. And you need to go check out his website. You need to look at everything he's doing, and you need to support him. We need to get men like Derrick in office to actually bring America to where it was supposed to be brought to today. So go check out Van Orden for Congress. Go make a donation. Sizable is always good. And let's get him into office. And thanks for being on the show, brother.
Thank you for having me. God bless you, man. Take care.
You are the man.
All right. I'm going back to work.